Hello, my name is Anne Tailford and I work in the Education Data Division at the Department for Education. I'm here to talk to you about the school census and how it is used for school funding. This is one of a series of videos related to the school census collection and should be watched in conjunction with the others. This slide lists the topic areas I will be covering during this presentation. The aim of this presentation is to provide an overview of how the information you submit via your school census returns will be used in various funding allocations. It will also describe the tools available for you to use to help ensure you are content with the accuracy of your census return before passing it to the department. The data collected via the school census will directly impact on the funding allocated to your school. Therefore, it is essential that the data returned is complete and accurate for all children on roll at your school on Census Day. Pupils aged 4 and above in National Curriculum Year Groups Reception to 11, as well as those aged 4 to 15 where National Curriculum Year Group does not apply, are funded via the schools block of the Dedicated Schools Grant based on the autumn census. Each unique pupil will be funded as one full-time equivalent, regardless of full-time part-time status, but funding is split for unresolved duplicate UPNs, which I will talk about in more detail later in the presentation. Funding for free early education, including the 30 hours extended entitlement from September 2017 onwards, will be provided to local authorities based on the funded hours and extended hours data collected via the spring school census. Local authorities will then be required to pass the funding on to their early years providers through their early years single funding formula. All pupils aged 3 and 4 are eligible for the universal entitlement to free early education, with children of eligible working parents also being entitled to an additional 15 hours of extended childcare. With regards to the data required via the school census, funded hours are required for all children aged 3, plus those aged 4 in National Curriculum Year Groups E1, E2, N1 and N2. Extended hours are required for children within the same cohort with a valid eligibility code. A subset of the most disadvantaged 2-year-olds are also entitled to 15 hours of free early education, and this will also be allocated on a participation basis based on the funded hours recorded in the spring school census. Whilst all 2-year-olds on your school roll should be included within your census return, only those funded via the local authority should have funded hours greater than 0. All schools with infant pupils recorded on their school census are required to complete the school lunch taken field for each infant pupil. This is a true or false flag indicating whether or not the pupil took a lunch that was provided by the school on Census Day. This should reflect the genuine position on Census Day. Therefore, pupils absent due to illness, for example, should not be recorded as having a lunch on Census Day. However, please note that in exceptional circumstances, for example, if the school is closed due to a teacher training day, another day when the situation is regarded as normal can be selected. The school lunch taken information returned on the census will be used alongside the free school meals eligibility information to determine the UIFSM funding allocation for your school. The calculation of eligible pupils will be the number of infant pupils recorded as having a lunch on Census Day minus the number of infant pupils recorded as having a lunch on Census Day who are also recorded as FSM eligible on Census Day. A report showing the breakdown of the pupils included in the UIFSM funding calculation will be available for you to run and collect. It is important that you check this report during the live collection to ensure the figures shown in the report are correct. It will not be possible to make amendments to either the data submitted or your funding allocation once the database is closed. Periods of free school meal eligibility that were live since the previous census will be collected in the current census for any pupil who is eligible for FSM and has made a claim. Only infant pupils who meet the free school meal eligibility criteria and have made a claim should be recorded as FSM eligible. Receipt of a universal infant free school meal on its own does not mean that the pupil is FSM eligible, and they should not be recorded as such. A report is available to help you to check the FSM eligibility data submitted in your census. You can run this by clicking the Launch Reports button on the front page of your census. An example of the report is shown here. Please note that this report refers only to FSM eligibility reported in the current census collection and not the FSM EVER measure used to allocate the pupil premium, which I will talk about in the following slides. Pupils aged 4 and above in reception to Year 11 who are known as FSM eligible, a service child, or adopted from care, leaving care under special guardianship order, a residence order, or a child arrangement order, will be eligible for pupil premium funding. Pupil premium funding will be calculated on the same basis as those for the dedicated school grants, taking into account any unresolved duplicate UPNs. The deprivation pupil premium is allocated to those pupils on roll at the time of the spring school census who are known to have been eligible for a free school meal on any pupil level census in the previous 6 years or 18 censuses, including those pupils who are first known to be eligible as at the spring census day. Only periods of FSM allocated in England are counted. As the school census only collects periods of eligibility that were live at any point since the previous census, the Department's National Pupil Database will map on the history of FSM eligibility from previous censuses for each pupil on roll in the spring school census to determine the actual numbers of FSM EVER pupils eligible for pupil premium. The service child pupil premium is allocated to pupils recorded as a service child on any current or any of the previous 5 spring school censuses, or as being in receipt of a war pension or armed forces and reserved forces compensation, according to the information the Department receives from the Ministry of Defence. The post-looked after pupil premium will be paid to those pupils on the spring school census who were previously looked after by an English or Welsh local authority immediately before leaving care under an adoption, a special guardianship order, residence order, or a child arrangement order. Pupils who were previously looked after by an authority in Northern Ireland, Scotland, or overseas should not be recorded as such on the school census return. As the school census return does not identify children who are currently looked after, the pupil premium report will not include these children. The pupil premium allocation for those children will be calculated using the local authority children looked after return. The early years pupil premium was introduced for disadvantaged 3 and 4-year-olds in April 2015. This information is collected annually in the spring school census. The eligible cohort for the early years pupil premium is shown on the slide. Pupils aged 4 in reception will be entitled to the main school age pupil premium and therefore are excluded from the eligible cohort for the early years pupil premium. Early years pupils will be eligible for the early years pupil premium if they are receiving funded early education and either meet the benefit part of the FSM criteria or are in the care of an English or Welsh local authority, or have left the care of an English or Welsh local authority through adoption, special guardianship, or a child arrangement order. A report is available in Collect to assist schools in checking this data. An example of how the report looks is shown on this slide. A unique pupil number, or UPN, is, by definition, unique to a particular learner, and each UPN will be funded only once, with the funding for any unresolved duplicates split. A duplicate UPN, that is, a UPN which has a registration at more than one establishment where the combination of enrolment statuses is invalid, will have an impact on the funding available. The slide shows examples of all valid and invalid combinations of enrolment statuses. You will see from the table, for example, that a combination of C, single registration, and M, dual main, will be treated as invalid and funding split between the two enrolments if left unresolved. A duplicate UPN report will be available once your census has been loaded into Collect. This report will highlight any pupils appearing on your census and that of another school where there is an invalid combination of enrolment statuses. It is important that schools outside of local authority control take responsibility for resolving their own duplicate UPNs. If your duplicate is with a local authority school, you should contact the local authority, and if it is with a school outside of local authority control, contact the school directly. You can run your duplicate report in Collect by clicking on the Launch Reports option and selecting Duplicate Report, Same UPN from the drop-down menu. This slide shows an example of a duplicate with the same pupil having an enrolment status of S at an academy and C at a local authority maintained school. It is important that the academy and local authority have a conversation to resolve the duplicate during the live collection, as no amendments, including adjustments to funding calculations, can be made once the database has closed. To assist schools in quality assuring the pupil numbers held on their return, a report is available from the Reports section in Collect. The Pupil Number Report will provide a head count of your pupils by National Curriculum Year Group, a head count of your pupils minus subsidiary registrations, and the number of pupils that will be used in the dedicated schools grant calculation. This slide provides links which you may require before and during the live collection. More information about how to submit your census data to us, including details about what data is collected for each termly school census, can be found on the school census page. Please take some time to read these documents, as they are designed to help you fulfil your statutory requirements and successfully complete and submit an accurate set of census data. In addition to the online documents, we also provide a data collection forum. The purpose of the forum is to provide a facility to allow customers to exchange ideas and good practice relating to specific data collections and related EDD systems, for example, Collect and School to School. You will require a username and password to access the forum. If you do not already have a username and password, or if you have any questions about the facility, please complete a service request form. I do hope you found this presentation helpful. Thank you.